Is the story that company CoreWeave, ticker symbol CRWV, is telling us sustainable? Well, what you'll see in a minute is that the price action of the stock does not seem to be marrying up with what the company is saying, which is why I think that this is an interesting analysis to make here. So let's have a quick look at what's going on. First of all, this is a company that's in the business of essentially offering cloud services for AI scaling, and so there's a lot of sort of circular investments between it and companies like NVIDIA, which has kind of caused a bit of an issue for analysts that are becoming more concerned with some of the circular investments that are taking place in the space. And CoreWeave seems to be at the front of this, or at least in part something that people are focusing on. Let's take a quick look at the basics from a financial perspective, and I'll make this chart a bit larger so you can see this. So essentially, you can see the company has been growing its top line, so that's the total revenue, a lot, right? The issue that I always find with a company like this is that the margins, albeit seeing improvement, are not exactly something to write home about. The market capitalization of the stock has gone up a lot over time. It's come down a little bit now because the stock price has gone down. But I think the ultimate arbiter is always the price action, and so here is kind of what's going on. So if we look at just the absolute price chart of what's been taking place with this particular name, you can see that the stock traded somewhere around the, let's call it $37 area. By the way, this was an IPO back in April. The stock then traded up as much as about 400%, 400, maybe even a bit more, or thereabouts. It is since off the highs about, as I'm recording this, about 54%. And so when you take the story that we're hearing from the company and you marry it up with the price action, something is clearly amiss. Either people aren't understanding the story, or there's concern among investors about what's really going on. I tend to believe price action more than narratives of CEOs, because it tends to be, it has over time just been a bit of a truer read on what's going on. What I think is most concerning here is not just what's going on in the chart, but it's the momentum. And so the best way I can show you this is by looking at our TST Trend Momentum Indicator tool. And if I show you this here on the larger chart, you can see that the stock had positive momentum back in September, which is where the stock then rallied as much as another 36%. Then it got into a choppy area, but we've since had more sustainable and more meaningful downside momentum, which essentially triggered a sell or short trigger on our proprietary tool here on November 4th. The stock is now down about 25%, and it's now at a point where I think a lot of investors are going to have to make up their mind, because if you look at the absolute chart, we're now at a point where in the past investors have gotten that were sort of saved by the algos probably. But the third time could be a charm for the bears, and certainly our momentum indicator seems to indicate that. So I think what's going on here with this story is a little bit more concerning that maybe some people still give it credit for. I personally typically stay away from these kind of stories and believe the price action, again, our TST Trend Momentum Indicator is indicating a bearish momentum trend, meaning momentum continuing to work to the downside. Hope it helps. And we'll see you again in the next video.
If this video helped you, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, you give us a thumbs up like, and if you want to see this approach in action, you will want to join us in our Set the Market morning call, which happens at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, Monday through Thursday. Make sure you join us for that in the link down below. Again, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.